The Citadel station floated in the darkness of neutral space like a massive jewel. Its crystalline structures caught the light from 3 nearby stars, creating rainbows that danced across its surface. Ships from 100 different worlds surrounded it, each one more impressive than the last. This was the Centennial Military Exhibition, an event that happened only once every 100 years. The most powerful civilizations in the galaxy gathered here to show off their greatest weapons and their mightiest warships. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the observation deck of Earth's diplomatic frigate, the Messenger. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Behind him, his small staff of diplomats and military advisors watched the alien vessels with a mixture of awe and nervousness. They had every right to be nervous. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, and they were still considered newcomers. Worse, they were considered primitive newcomers. Through the viewport, Chen could see the massive ships of the elder races. The Crethians had brought 3 of their war moons, each one a hollowed-out asteroid packed with weapons and shields. They were brutal and effective, much like the Crethians themselves. The reptilian warriors had conquered 40 star systems through sheer aggression and overwhelming firepower. Their commander, War Chief Thraknor, had made it clear that he considered humans to be barely worth noticing. Further out, the Velkari Crystal Armada shimmered with an otherworldly beauty. The Velkari were an ancient race, old when humanity was still learning to make fire. Their ships were grown rather than built, massive structures of living crystal that could bend energy and matter to their will. They looked down on everyone, but they seemed to have special contempt for humans. Admiral Cassaveth had actually laughed when the messenger had arrived, its modest size dwarfed by the alien vessels around it. The Zephlon Empire had brought their planet crackers, ships designed to break worlds apart from orbit. The insectoid Zephlons were efficient and cold, viewing warfare as a mathematical problem to be solved. Their vessels bristled with weapons that could reduce a planet's surface to molten slag in hours. They had not bothered to insult humanity. They simply ignored the human delegation entirely, as if Earth did not exist at all. Chen's second-in-command, Commander James Rodriguez, stepped up beside him. The younger man's jaw was tight with barely suppressed anger. "Sir, did you hear what the Velkari Admiral said in the main hall? He suggested we go home before we embarrass ourselves. He called our ships cute shuttles." Chen allowed himself a small smile. "I heard. It's taking everything I have not to punch that crystalline bastard in his smug face," Rodriguez muttered. "Patience, Commander. Patience is a virtue, especially in diplomacy." Chen turned away from the viewport and faced his team. There were 12 of them in total, all carefully selected for this mission. "Is everything ready?" Rodriguez nodded. "Yes, sir. All units are in position. They've been there for 6 days now, and not one of these arrogant aliens has detected a thing." "Good." Chen checked his watch. "The Zephlons finished their demonstration in 3 hours. Then it's our turn." A young intelligence officer named Lieutenant Park spoke up. "Sir, are you sure about this? I mean, once we show them what we have, there's no taking it back. The political situation could become very complicated." Chen nodded slowly. "You're right, Lieutenant. It will become complicated, but it's necessary. These elder races need to understand something important. They need to understand that humanity is not weak, and we are not to be dismissed." He paused, looking at each member of his team. 50 years ago, we joined the galactic community with hope and optimism. We wanted to learn from our elders to find our place among the stars. And what did we find? We found contempt. We found species who see us as primitive children playing with toys we don't understand. "They think our kinetic weapons are outdated," Rodriguez added. "They laugh at our chemical propulsion, our nuclear reactors, our ancient technology." "Let them laugh," Chen said quietly. "They've forgotten something important. They've forgotten that technology is just a tool. What matters is how you use it. And humanity has spent thousands of years learning to use whatever tools we have to survive." He looked back out at the assembled fleets. These elder races have had peace for so long that they've forgotten what real warfare looks like. They build their massive dreadnoughts and their superweapons, and they think that raw power is all that matters. "But we know better," Rodriguez said with a grin. "Yes, we do. We spent centuries fighting each other on Earth. World wars, Cold Wars, proxy conflicts. We learned every dirty trick, every strategic principle, every tactical innovation the hard way. We learned because we had to, and when the Devourers attacked our colonies 15 years ago, we learned even more. We learned what it means to face extinction. The room grew quiet. Everyone remembered the Devourer War. Humanity's outer colonies had been attacked by a hostile alien species that the rest of the galaxy had never encountered. The Devourers were like locusts consuming everything in their path. Earth had screamed for help from the galactic community, but help had come too slowly. By the time Velkari and Krethian forces arrived, 3 colonies were already gone. Millions of humans dead. That was when humanity realized a terrible truth. In the galaxy, you could only rely on yourself. If you wanted to survive, you needed to be strong. Not just strong enough to defend your home, but strong enough to project power anywhere in space at any time. Strong enough that no one would ever ignore your calls for help again. The demonstration will go exactly as planned, Chen said firmly. We requested to go last and they agreed. They think we're stalling because we're nervous. Let them think that. In 3 hours, we're going to change everything. As if on cue, Chen's communicator chimed. He answered it and a woman's voice came through. Ambassador, this is Admiral Okonkwo. All units report ready status. We're just waiting for your signal. Understood, Admiral. Maintain position and stay dark. We go in 3 hours, acknowledged. The crews are eager, sir. They've been listening to the alien comm chatter all week. Apparently we're a joke out here. Chen smiled. Not for much longer, Admiral. Not for much longer. After he closed the connection, Lieutenant Park asked, Sir, what do you think will happen after we reveal the fleet? I mean, politically? Chaos, probably, Chen admitted. The power balance in the galaxy is going to shift. Some species will want to ally with us. Others will see us as a threat. The Krethians might even consider a preemptive strike, though I doubt they'll be that foolish. And the Council? The Council will have no choice but to take us seriously. We'll get that Security Council seat we've been requesting for a decade, and more importantly, we'll get respect. Chen's expression hardened, not because we asked for it, not because we begged for it, but because we earned it. Because we showed them that humanity is not to be underestimated. The hours passed slowly. The Zephlon demonstration was impressive, a cold and efficient display of planetary bombardment capability. The assembled delegates applauded politely. Then it was Earth's turn. Chen walked into the main assembly hall. Thousands of aliens from hundreds of species watched him. Some looked bored, others looked amused. The Velkari admiral was actually smirking, his crystalline features glinting in the light. Chen stepped up to the central podium. He looked calm, almost casual. He raised his communicator to his lips and spoke 2 simple words that would change galactic history. Commence Lighthouse. The words hung in the air for exactly 3 seconds. Then space itself seemed to shimmer. At 12 coordinates surrounding the Citadel station, reality rippled like water. The effect was subtle at first, just a slight distortion in the starlight. Then it grew stronger. The shimmer spread outward in waves and something impossible began to happen. Ships appeared. They did not jump in through hyperspace. They did not decloak in a flash of energy. They simply became visible, as if they had been there all along. Because they had been there all along, 12 massive vessels materialized in perfect formation around the station. Each one was enormous, dwarfing even the largest Krethian war moon by a factor of 5. They were dark gray, their hulls covered in angular plates that seemed designed to scatter sensor beams. No bright lights adorned their surfaces. No decorative elements softened their brutal, functional design. These were weapons, pure and simple. Tools of war built by a species that understood warfare in its bones. The main assembly hall erupted into chaos. Alarm klaxons began wailing across the station. Delegates jumped to their feet, shouting in 100 different languages. Military commanders screamed orders into their communicators. Weapons systems came online across the alien fleet as crews scrambled to battle stations. Ambassador Chen stood calmly at the podium, watching the pandemonium with satisfaction. He raised his hand and gradually the noise died down. Species that had been ready to laugh at humanity now stared at the human ambassador with new eyes filled with shock, fear, and something that looked like respect. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings of all designations, Chen said, his voice carrying across the silent hall, may I present the expeditionary fleet of the United Nations Space Command. The vessels you see are Supercarrier class ships, the backbone of Earth's military projection capability. On the massive view screens around the hall, images of the 12 ships appeared. The lead vessel dominated the screen, and text appeared beside it. UNSC Terra Invictus, 8 kilometers in length, crew complement 50,000. Fighter craft capacity, 2,000. War Chief Thrakenor of the Krethians had gone pale, his scales losing their vibrant color. 8 kilometers. That's impossible. Our sensors detected nothing. Nothing. Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect, Chen replied calmly. Which was nothing at all. Admiral Kasveth of the Velkari was on his feet, his crystalline form vibrating with agitation. How long? How long have these vessels been here? 6 days, Chen said. They arrived the same day we did. They've been observing your demonstrations, studying your tactics, analyzing your technology, all while remaining completely invisible to your sensors. The room exploded into noise again. 6 days. The human ships had been hiding in plain sight for 6 days, and none of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had detected them. It was humiliating. It was terrifying. A Zephlon admiral, her insectoid features twitching with what might have been anger or fear, spoke up. What technology allows this? Some kind of advanced cloaking device? Chen smiled. Nothing so exotic, I'm afraid. We use what you might call primitive technology. Thermal camouflage, heat sinks, electromagnetic silence. We run our ships cold and dark using passive sensors only. We learned these techniques fighting each other on Earth. Submarine warfare, we called it. The art of hiding in an environment where everything wants to find you. But the energy signatures, another delegate protested. Ships that large must generate enormous amounts of heat. Where does it go? We store it, Chen explained. Massive heat sinks throughout each vessel. We can run silent for weeks if necessary. When we need to dump the heat, we do it in controlled bursts that look like natural phenomena. Space is full of thermal irregularities. One more doesn't attract attention. Commander Rodriguez, standing near the back of the hall, added, We also use decoys. Lots of decoys. While you were looking at our diplomatic frigate, wondering why Earth sent such a small delegation, you were actually looking at several dozen drones broadcasting false sensor signatures. You were so busy dismissing us as primitive that you never looked closely enough to see the truth. War Chief Thrakenor slammed his fist on his console. This is a trick. A deception. You have violated the spirit of this exhibition. Have we? Chen's voice was mild, but there was steel underneath. I seem to recall the rules stating that each civilization would demonstrate their military capabilities. That's exactly what we're doing. We're demonstrating that humanity's greatest capability is the ability to hide, to watch, and to strike when the enemy least expects it. On the view screens, the 12 supercarriers began to move. They adjusted their positions with surprising grace for such massive vessels. Their engines, which had been silent for days, came to life. Blue plasma exhaust glowed against the darkness of space as the ships took up new positions. Each of these carriers, Chen continued, is designed to operate independently for years at a time. They contain manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, medical centers, and even agricultural sections. They are not just warships. They are mobile fortresses, self-sufficient bases that can establish a presence anywhere in the galaxy and sustain it indefinitely. A delegate from a smaller species, one that had been even more dismissive of humanity than the elder races, raised a tentative appendage. How many fighters can these ships deploy? Chen nodded to Rodriguez, who pulled up specifications on the main screen. Each carrier houses 2,000 fighter craft. Multiply that by 12, and you're looking at 24,000 fighters. But that's just the beginning. Each carrier can manufacture additional fighters using onboard facilities. Given raw materials and time, a single carrier could replace its entire fighter complement in about 3 months. The numbers were staggering. Most alien civilizations measured their military strength in dozens or perhaps hundreds of capital ships. Humanity had just revealed 12 vessels, each one carrying more firepower than some species' entire fleets. This is madness, Admiral Kasveth whispered. Why would you build such things? The cost must be astronomical. Chen's expression grew dark. We built them because we had to. 15 years ago, the Devourers attacked our colonies. We called for help. The galactic community responded eventually. But by the time your fleets arrived, millions of my people were dead. 3 entire colonies were wiped out. We learned a hard lesson that day. In this galaxy, The only people you can truly rely on are yourselves. The room fell silent. Everyone remembered the Devourer War. It had been a brief conflict by galactic standards, a minor footnote in the great sweep of history. But for humanity, it had been everything. It had been the moment they realized that their survival depended on their own strength. After the war, Chen continued, we made a decision. We would never again be weak. We would never again watch helplessly as our people died. We would build a fleet that could protect our interest anywhere in the galaxy. A fleet that could arrive anywhere at any time and establish dominance. These supercarriers are the result of that decision. A young Zephlon officer, her voice shaking slightly, spoke up from her station. Ambassador Chen, I have a question. During the past week, I've been monitoring long-range sensors. Several times I detected what I thought were sensor ghosts, gravitational anomalies that appeared and disappeared. Were those your ships? Chen nodded. Yes, we occasionally had to adjust position or vent heat. We tried to minimize our visibility, but it seems your sensors are better than we anticipated. Congratulations on your vigilance, officer. The Zephlon swelled slightly with pride at the compliment, but her commander shot her a dark look. She had detected something that the entire Zephlon fleet had missed, and her superiors were not pleased about it. War Chief Thraknor stood up, his massive form looming over his console. This changes nothing. These ships are large, yes, but size is not everything. My war moons could reduce them to debris, could they? Chen's voice was mild but challenging. I suppose we'll never know, but I would remind you, War Chief, that these ships remained undetected for 6 days while surrounded by the most advanced fleets in the galaxy. If this were a real combat situation, we could have positioned ourselves perfectly for a first strike. By the time your war moons knew we were here, the battle would already be over. The Krethian warrior snarled but said nothing. He knew Chen was right. The main view screen shifted to show the UNSC Terra Invictus in detail. The massive vessel dominated the display, its 8-kilometer hull a study in functional brutality. Unlike the elegant curves of Velkari crystal ships or the ornate decorations on Zephlon vessels, the Terra Invictus was all business. Every surface served a purpose. Every angle was designed to deflect sensors or weapons fire. Ambassador Chen pressed a button on his console. Admiral Okonkwo, if you please. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She was in her 50s with dark skin, sharp eyes, and the bearing of someone who had commanded in real combat. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo, commander of the UNSC Expeditionary Fleet. Behind her, the bridge of the Terra Invictus was visible. It was dimly lit with hundreds of crew members working at their stations. Delegates of the Galactic Council, Admiral Okonkwo said, her voice firm and clear. For the past week, my fleet has maintained silent running protocols around the station. We have observed your demonstrations with great interest. Now, with your permission, we would like to conduct a demonstration of our own. Before anyone could object, Admiral Okonkwo gave an order. All carriers launch fighters. Execute pattern Delta 7. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The sides of each supercarrier split open, revealing massive hangar bays stacked dozens of levels deep. From these bays, fighters began to pour out like angry insects from a disturbed hive. They came in waves, hundreds at first, then thousands. Small, fast, and deadly, each fighter was crewed by 2 pilots and armed with missiles, railguns, and energy weapons. Within 5 minutes, 10,000 fighters filled the space around the Citadel station. They moved in perfect formation, their movements synchronized with inhuman precision. They formed spirals, spheres, and attack patterns that shifted and flowed like living things. The display was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. In the assembly hall, delegates watched in stunned silence. The sheer scale of the deployment was beyond anything they had imagined. Most species built a few hundred fighters to support their capital ships. Humanity had just launched 10,000 and the carrier still looked full. Mother of stars, a delegate whispered. How many more do they have? As if in answer, Admiral Okonkwo spoke again. What you're seeing is approximately 40% of our fighter complement. Each carrier retains 60% of its forces for defensive operations and reserve deployment. Additionally, each carrier is currently manufacturing more fighters in its internal factories. We can sustain this level of deployment indefinitely. War Chief Thraknor was gripping his console so hard that his claws left marks in the metal. This is impossible. The logistics alone, the fuel, the ammunition, the maintenance. We learned from history, Admiral Okonkwo replied. During Earth's Second World War, My nation built what we called fleet carriers. These were ships designed to project power across entire oceans. They could launch hundreds of aircraft, strike targets thousands of kilometers away, and sustain operations for months. We've simply taken that concept and scaled it up for space warfare. Commander Rodriguez added, each fighter carries enough fuel and ammunition for 3 combat missions. When they return to the carrier, they're refueled, rearmed, and sent back out. The turnaround time is approximately 20 minutes. We can maintain continuous combat operations for weeks without resupply from Earth. The fighters suddenly changed formation. They grouped into attack squadrons and began running simulated strike patterns against imaginary targets. The precision was remarkable. Thousands of fighters moving as one, each pilot knowing exactly where to be and when to be there. It was the result of thousands of hours of training and generations of tactical development. Admiral Casaveth of the Valkyrie had been silent for several minutes, his crystalline features reflecting the light from the fighters outside. Finally, he spoke. I understand now. You didn't build these ships to fight in traditional battles. You built them to control territory. Chen nodded approvingly. Very perceptive, Admiral. Yes, that's exactly right. Most species build their fleets around the concept of decisive battle, big ships facing each other in direct combat. But humanity learned a different lesson from our history. Controlling territory is more important than winning battles. These carriers allow us to establish and maintain a presence anywhere in the galaxy. They can defend a region, support ground operations, conduct deep space patrols, and serve as forward operating bases for further expansion. It's the American model, a human military advisor explained. During the Cold War on Earth, the United States maintained a global military presence through carrier battle groups. They could project power anywhere in the world within days. We've adapted that strategy for galactic warfare. With 12 carriers, we can maintain a presence in 12 different star systems simultaneously. Each carrier group operates independently, but they can mass together if needed for larger operations. A Zephlon admiral, his mandibles clicking nervously, asked the question that everyone was thinking. How many of these carriers does Earth possess? Chen smiled. That's classified information, I'm afraid. But I can tell you that what you're seeing here is our expeditionary fleet, the fleet designed for operations far from Earth. We also maintain a home fleet for the defense of the Sol system. How large is the home fleet? War Chief Thraknor demanded. Much larger, Chen said simply. The implications of that statement rippled through the assembly hall. If this was just the expeditionary fleet, just the ships Earth sent out for foreign operations, then how powerful was humanity's full military? The elder races had thought of humans as barely worthy of notice. Now they were realizing that they might have severely underestimated this young species. Admiral Okonkwo spoke again. I'd like to explain something about human military doctrine, if I may. For thousands of years, humanity fought wars on our homeworld. We learned many lessons, often at terrible cost. One of the most important lessons was this: survival goes to the adaptable, not the strong. The most powerful weapon is not the biggest gun or the strongest shield. It's the ability to think, to adapt, to use whatever resources you have in ways your enemy doesn't expect. She gestured to the fighters still performing maneuvers outside. These carriers represent that philosophy. They're not the most heavily armored ships ever built. They're not the fastest or the most powerful in direct combat, but they're versatile. They can adapt to any situation. They can fight in any environment. They can sustain themselves without support. And most importantly, they can hide when necessary and strike when the time is right. Like predators, Admiral Casaveth said quietly. You hunt like predators. We are predators, Admiral Okonkwo confirmed. Humanity evolved as hunters on Earth. We learned to stalk our prey, to use tools, to work in groups, to plan and adapt. Those instincts are built into us at a genetic level. We brought them with us to the stars. The fighters began returning to their carriers in waves, the recovery operation as smooth and efficient as the launch had been. Within minutes, the space around the Citadel was clear again, the 10,000 fighters safely back in their hangar bays. But everyone knew that those fighters could be launched again at a moment's notice. The threat was clear even if it was never explicitly stated. Humanity had the capability to overwhelm any fleet in the galaxy through sheer numbers and coordination. A delegate from a minor species, one that had no real military power, stood up. Her voice was small but clear. Ambassador Chen, I have a question. Why are you showing us this now? Why reveal your strength at this exhibition? Chen's expression softened. That's an excellent question. The answer is simple. We're tired of being dismissed. We're tired of being treated as primitives who stumbled into space travel by accident. We're tired of our concerns being ignored in council meetings. And most importantly, we're tired of watching potential threats grow while the galactic community remains complacent. He turned to face the entire assembly. For 50 years, we've tried to work within the established system. We've followed the rules, respected the traditions, and deferred to the elder races. And what has it gotten us? Contempt. When we ask for better trade terms, we're told to be grateful for what we have. When we request security guarantees, we're told we're being paranoid. When we warn about potential threats at the galactic rim, we're told we're overreacting. So we decided to stop asking and start showing. We built this fleet not to threaten you, but to ensure that our voice will be heard. To make certain that humanity will never again be dismissed or ignored. To guarantee that when we speak in the council chambers, people listen. War Chief Thraknor snorted. You built this fleet to intimidate us. If you feel intimidated, that says more about you than it does about us, Chen replied calmly. We built this fleet to survive. The fact that it also commands respect is simply a useful side effect. Admiral Okonkwo's image reappeared on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more demonstration, if you'll permit it. I'd like to show you what these carriers were really designed for. Without waiting for permission, she gave another order. All carriers activate defensive systems. Show them what we learned from the Devourer War. The 12 carriers suddenly bristled with weapons. The emergency sessions began immediately after the demonstration ended. The Galactic Council's Military Advisory Committee convened in a secure chamber, deep within the Citadel station. Representatives from every major military power in the galaxy crowded around the conference table. The mood was tense, the air thick with worry and suspicion. War Chief Thraknor stood at the head of the table, his massive form radiating barely controlled anger. We need to discuss what we just witnessed. The humans have been lying to us for years about their military capabilities. They never lied, corrected a Velkari intelligence officer. We simply never asked the right questions. And we dismissed them so thoroughly that we never bothered to investigate their true strength. A Zephlon strategist projected holographic data into the center of the table. I've been analyzing the carrier specifications. The numbers are deeply concerning. Each vessel represents a concentration of force equivalent to an entire battle fleet by conventional standards. 12 carriers mean 12 independent fleets that can operate anywhere simultaneously. That's not even the worst part, added another analyst. Look at their operational doctrine. Traditional fleet engagements rely on supply lines and logistics chains. You destroy those, you cripple the fleet. But these carriers are self-sufficient. They manufacture their own fighters, produce their own ammunition, grow their own food. You can't starve them out. You can't cut them off. Each one is a mobile fortress that can sustain combat operations indefinitely. Admiral Kasaveth of the Velkari had been quiet since the demonstration ended. Now he spoke, his crystalline voice thoughtful. We've been thinking about this wrong. We've been comparing their carriers to our dreadnoughts and command ships, but that's not the right comparison. Their carriers are more like mobile space stations. They're territory control platforms, not battle wagons. A younger Velkari officer nodded eagerly. Exactly. In conventional galactic warfare, controlling a star system requires establishing fixed fortifications, orbital platforms, and supply depots. It takes years to build that infrastructure, but the humans can drop a carrier into a system and instantly have all of that. The carrier becomes the fortress, the supply depot, and the command center all at once. War Chief Thraknor slammed his fist on the table. So what you're saying is that humanity can take and hold any system they want and we can't stop them? Not exactly, the Zephlon strategist replied. Their carriers are powerful, but they're not invincible. Concentrated fire from multiple capital ships could destroy one. But the cost would be severe. They've designed these vessels to take enormous amounts of damage, and while you're attacking the carrier, its fighters are tearing your fleet apart. A Krithian admiral pulled up tactical simulations. I've run the numbers. To destroy a single human carrier with acceptable losses, we would need at least 5 war moons and supporting ships. That's a significant commitment of forces, and they have 12 carriers in this fleet alone. And more at home, someone muttered. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed that fact. Ambassador Chen had been very clear. This was just the expeditionary fleet. Earth's home defense fleet was larger. Much larger. How much larger, no one knew. But the implications were staggering. Admiral Casaveth spoke again. We need to understand their strategic thinking. Why did they build this way? What were they trying to achieve? Commander Rodriguez had been invited to the session as a technical advisor. Now he stepped forward. I can answer that. After the Devourer War, we analyzed what went wrong. We had colonies spread across a dozen systems, but we couldn't defend them all. When the Devourers attacked, our fleet was too slow to respond. By the time we gathered enough ships to mount a defense, millions were dead. He pulled up a star chart showing human-controlled space. We needed a solution that would let us defend all our territory simultaneously. We needed ships that could be in multiple places at once and respond to threats within hours, not weeks. The carrier doctrine was the answer. Each carrier group is assigned to a specific region. If trouble starts, they're already there. They don't need to wait for reinforcements because they are the reinforcements. It's the same strategy we used on Earth, he continued. During the Cold War, the United States maintained carrier groups in strategic locations around the planet. Mediterranean, Pacific, Indian Ocean. Anywhere a crisis might occur, there was already a carrier within striking distance. We've adapted that concept for space warfare. A Velkari cultural specialist who had been studying human history added her observations. I've been researching Earth's military evolution. What strikes me is how much humanity has internalized the concept of warfare. Most galactic species view military conflict as an occasional necessity, something to be avoided when possible. But humans have been fighting wars continuously for their entire recorded history. They have thousands of years of accumulated tactical knowledge, strategic thinking, and combat experience. She displayed images from Earth's history, ancient armies, medieval sieges, modern mechanized warfare. Look at the progression. Every generation of humans refined and improved their warfare techniques. They learned from their mistakes, adapted to new technologies, and developed increasingly sophisticated doctrines. By the time they reached space, they had a deeper understanding of military principles than species that have been spacefaring for millennia. Because we never had to learn, Admiral Casaveth said quietly. The Velkari have been spacefaring for 50,000 years, but for most of that time we've been at peace. We haven't fought a major war in 10,000 years. We've forgotten more about warfare than we ever knew. War Chief Thraknor bristled at that. The Krethians have not forgotten.
We are warriors.
Are you? The Velkari Admiral's tone was challenging. When was the last time you faced an enemy that could truly threaten you? Your recent conquests have been against species with primitive technology. You haven't faced a peer adversary in generations. The humans, by contrast, spent centuries fighting each other. They've faced peer adversaries their entire history. The Krethians started to argue but fell silent. He knew the Velkari was right. A Zephlon economist brought up financial projections. Let's talk about resources. The cost of building and maintaining these carriers must be astronomical. How are the humans paying for this? Commander Rodriguez smiled. Actually, the carriers are surprisingly cost-effective compared to traditional fleet structures. Yes, they're expensive to build, but once operational, they're economical. They produce most of what they need internally. They don't require constant resupply runs. They don't need expensive port facilities. The crew lives aboard for extended tours, so there are no transportation costs. And because they can manufacture fighters and ammunition themselves, the long-term operational costs are relatively low. There's another factor, added a human economic advisor. Earth has always had a strong industrial base. During our world wars, we learned how to convert civilian production to military production quickly and efficiently. When we decided to build the carrier fleet, we simply applied those lessons. Our shipyards work constantly, building new vessels and maintaining existing ones. It's not cheap, but it's sustainable. Admiral Casaveth brought up the topic everyone was thinking about. We need to discuss the political implications. Earth will certainly use this revelation to demand a permanent seat on the Security Council. They'll get it, the Zephlon strategist said flatly. We have no choice. You can't exclude a power this significant from major decisions. They've made that clear. Some will see this as blackmail, War Chief Thraknor growled. Call it what you want, the Zephlon replied. The reality is that humanity now has the military capability to back up their demands. That changes everything. A representative from a smaller species spoke up nervously. What about the rest of us? The minor powers? If Earth joins the Security Council, will they protect us or dominate us? Commander Rodriguez addressed her directly. Earth has no interest in domination. We've been dominated before and we didn't like it. What we want is security for ourselves and our allies. We're prepared to extend our protection to any species that wants it. For a price? Someone asked cynically. For mutual benefit, Rodriguez corrected. We're not looking for subjects or vassals. We're looking for partners. Species that will work with us, share intelligence with us, and stand with us when threats emerge. Admiral Casaveth nodded slowly. They're building an alliance network. Very clever. They can't match the elder races in terms of history or ancient technology. So they're gathering the younger species under their protection. Within a generation, they'll have a coalition that rivals any power block in the galaxy. If we let them, War Chief Thraknor said ominously. The Velkari admiral turned to face the Krethian directly. Let them? We can't stop them. Not without starting a war that would cost us dearly. Look at the tactical situation objectively. Could we defeat humanity in open combat? Probably if we committed enough forces. But the cost would be severe. And while we were fighting them, what happens to our other interests? Our other territories? We'd be weakening ourselves to destroy an enemy that hasn't actually attacked us. 3 days after the demonstration, the Galactic Council convened in formal session. The Grand Chamber was packed with delegates from hundreds of worlds. The atmosphere was tense but also electric with anticipation. Everyone knew that today would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the Council's senior members. The 5 permanent seats on the Security Council were occupied by the galaxy's traditional great powers. The Velkari, ancient and wise, the Krethians, strong and aggressive, the Zephlons, efficient and calculating, the Kutak hegemony, mysterious and powerful, and the Stellar Concordat, a coalition of wealthy trading worlds. These 5 had controlled galactic politics for thousands of years. Now there would be 6. The Velkari High Counselor, Casveth Superior, spoke first. Her crystalline form glowed with inner light as she addressed the assembly. The Council has reviewed humanity's demonstration and the subsequent intelligence reports. We have discussed the matter extensively among ourselves and with our military advisors. We have reached a decision. She paused, letting the tension build. The Galactic Council recognizes that Earth has become a major power in galactic affairs. Your military capabilities, your technological development, and your strategic importance can no longer be ignored or marginalized. Therefore, effective immediately, the United Nations of Earth is granted a permanent seat on the Security Council. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates cheered, particularly those from younger species who had long resented the elder race's dominance. Others protested, especially those aligned with the traditional powers. But the decision was final. It had been made not out of generosity but out of necessity. The elder races could not afford to have humanity operating outside the established power structure. Ambassador Chen bowed respectfully. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I accept this honor with humility and determination. We will work tirelessly to uphold the principles of the Council and to maintain peace and security throughout the galaxy. War Chief Thraknor, who had been forced to support the decision by his own government, growled from his seat. Let us hope that humanity's military power is matched by wisdom. We have seen what you can do. Now show us that you know when not to do it. Wise words, Chen agreed. Power without restraint is tyranny. Earth understands this better than most. We've experienced tyranny from both sides. We know the cost of unchecked power, and we will not become the thing we once fought against. Over the following weeks, the political landscape shifted dramatically. Smaller species rushed to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. Defense pacts were signed, trade agreements negotiated, technology exchanges arranged. Humanity had wanted to be taken seriously, and now they were being taken very seriously indeed. But not everyone was happy about the change. In the shadows, in private meetings on distant worlds, some of the elder races discussed their concerns. The Krethians in particular were deeply troubled. They had built their power on military might, and suddenly a younger species had revealed capabilities that matched or exceeded their own. Admiral Okonkwo was aware of these undercurrents. She kept the expeditionary fleet on high alert, ready for any treachery. But she also made sure that the carriers were visible, their presence a constant reminder of Earth's capabilities. The 12 massive vessels took up permanent stations in key regions of space. The Terra Invictus remained near the Citadel Station, a symbol of humanity's new status. 1 month after the exhibition, Chen received an unexpected visitor. Admiral Captivated of the Valkyrie requested a private meeting. They met in a secure room aboard the Citadel, just the two of them. The Valkyrie Admiral's crystalline features seemed dimmer than usual, as if he was troubled by something. "Ambassador Chen, I want to discuss something that has been bothering me. When you revealed your fleet, you said it was designed to fight the Devourers. But the Devourers were destroyed 15 years ago. So why do you keep building carriers? Why maintain such a large fleet if the threat is gone?" Chen studied the alien carefully. "Because the Devourers weren't unique. They were just one threat. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Admiral. There are things out there at the rim, in the dark spaces between stars. Things we don't understand. Things that might make the Devourers look like a minor nuisance." Captivated leaned forward. "You know something. Your long-range probes have found something, haven't they?" "We have concerns," Chen admitted carefully. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected anomalies, energy signatures that don't match any known technology, movement patterns that suggest intelligence but not any species we've encountered. It might be nothing. Or it might be everything. And you didn't share this intelligence with the Council?" "We tried," Chen said, a note of bitterness in his voice. 3 years ago, we presented our findings. We were told we were being paranoid. We were told that the galaxy has been explored and there are no major threats remaining. We were told to stop wasting the Council's time with ghost stories. Captivated's glow dimmed further. "I remember that session. I was one of the ones who dismissed your concerns. I apologize for that. Apology accepted. But it illustrates our problem. We see threats that others ignore. We prepare for possibilities that others dismiss. That's why we built the carriers. It's not just to fight the last war, but to be ready for the next one." The Valkyrie Admiral was silent for a long moment. "Show me your data. Show me these anomalies you've detected." Chen pulled up a secure terminal and displayed star charts marked with strange readings. Energy bursts in empty space. Gravitational distortions with no apparent source. Traces of exotic matter that shouldn't exist. Each incident by itself could be dismissed as sensor error or natural phenomena. But together they suggested something more disturbing. "The pattern is spreading inward," Captivated observed. "From the galactic rim toward populated space?" "Yes. Whatever it is, it's getting closer. Our analysts estimate we have maybe 5 years before it reaches the outer colonies, maybe 10 before it reaches the core worlds." 5 years, the Admiral repeated. "And in 5 years, can the galaxy prepare? Can we build enough ships, train enough crews, develop adequate strategies?" "Not if we wait," Chen said bluntly. "That's why we built the carriers now. That's why we revealed them now. We need the galaxy to wake up and see the danger before it's too late." Captivated straightened. "You orchestrated this entire situation. The demonstration, the revelation, the political pressure. It was all designed to force the elder races to take you seriously, so that when you warned about this new threat, we would listen." "Guilty," Chen admitted. "We tried the diplomatic approach. We tried sharing our concerns through proper channels. It didn't work. So we decided to make ourselves impossible to ignore. Now when we say there's a threat coming, people will pay attention." "Clever," the Admiral said with grudging respect. "Manipulative but clever. What do you need from us?" "Cooperation. We need the Council to authorize a joint deep space exploration mission. We need to send ships to investigate these anomalies. We need to know what we're dealing with before it arrives at our doorstep." "I'll speak to my government," Captivated promised. "The Valkyrie have the most advanced sensor technology in the galaxy. If there's something out there, we'll find it." "Thank you, Admiral. That's all we ask. A chance to prepare together instead of facing the unknown separately." 2 weeks later, the situation changed dramatically. Long-range sensors across the galaxy detected something new, a massive energy signature at the rim, far stronger than any previous anomaly. It was moving, and it was moving fast. The Council convened an emergency session. Admiral Okonkwo transmitted live from the Terra Invictus. Counselors were tracking an unidentified object entering the galaxy from deep space. Size is difficult to estimate, but preliminary readings suggest something larger than any ship we've encountered. It's on a direct course toward inhabited systems. War Chief Thraknor demanded more information. "How long until it reaches our territory?" "Current speed approximately 6 months," Okonkwo replied. "But that's assuming it doesn't accelerate." 6 months, Chen said quietly. 6 months to prepare for first contact with something we don't understand. Or 6 months to prepare for war if it proves hostile. The Velkari High Counselor made a decision. Ambassador Chen, Admiral Okonkwo on behalf of the Galactic Council. I authorize Earth's expeditionary fleet to intercept this object. You will investigate and determine its nature and intentions. Other species will provide support as available. Admiral Okonkwo nodded. Understood. All carriers, this is Admiral Okonkwo. Prepare for deep space deployment. We jump in 12 hours. The chamber fell silent as everyone absorbed what was happening. Humanity had revealed their strength to gain respect. Now they would have a chance to prove whether that strength was enough. Chen looked at the assembled delegates. This is why we built the carriers. Not to threaten you, not to dominate you, but to stand between civilization and whatever dangers lurk in the darkness. When we said we would never again be weak, we meant it. And when we said we would protect our interests, we meant that too. But our interests include the survival of all galactic civilization. He paused, letting his words sink in. In 6 months, we'll know what's coming. In 6 months, we'll face it together.